Well, certainly quite a very important day where the new CEO of NEPAD is engaging with the media, essentially just threshing out her vision. We know that it's only just 6 months for her into one of the very important institutions. When you look at the architecture within the AU family, NEPAD certainly does have a very pivotal role in terms of championing development and tackling a number of issues as well. So Ms. Bekele Thomas joins us now. So, Madam CEO, thank you so much indeed for your time. So, first and foremost, you talk about energizing Africa, a very interesting concept in light of all these challenges we're facing.
Thank you very much. Yes, certainly. We need to have a focus on the youth. We've been talking about the youth all the time, youth unemployment, and the fact that the youth, if they're not employed, could be a threat to the society. It's a recognized fact, but we lack action. And therefore, we came out with this program called Energize Africa to make sure that we use the youthful energies to energize the public sector, but also energize the private sector and make sure that the youth are part and parcel of the whole socioeconomic transformation process, and they're engaged and they're employed, and in doing that we can fulfill the aspirations that are stipulated in the Agenda 2063. And the same goes with women. So this whole Energize Africa is about youth and also about women. How do we make sure that this marginalized segment of the society are integrated, are engaged in the whole development process of our continent to make sure that we reach at the Africa we want. That's the dream, right? Realizing the dream without them is not possible. So we want it to be really make it a reality and a possibility, yeah.
And just once again, Madam CEO, now we know that with COVID-19, a number of economies in the continent were battered, and NEPAD as well was a very key institution in terms of making sure that vaccines are there. So, but in terms of economic recovery in the continent, what sort of a role are you emphasizing to play in this regard?
The first thing to understand and recognize is the fact that if COVID has been very detrimental to our process and to our growth process and where we were, is because of our inaction. Had we strengthened the primary health care and also the health systems, we wouldn't be where we are today. So making sure that the health security is a reality is very important. And we've seen that health is not just about the Ministry of Health taking care of it. It's not just about health, it's about everything. And COVID has taught us that it has an impact on the socioeconomic, issues, be it even the middle class being affected. Here in South Africa, for example, so many middle class people went into the poverty line, the upper bound poverty line, and that is because of the COVID. And what we're trying to do is really not to draw lessons from this COVID. There are many positive things, and at times you say it's a good thing that it happened because it showed us that we cannot work in a silo. We have to have a holistic approach to any shock that we do. Second is it has shown us that we need to redouble our efforts to make sure that our promises are fulfilled, to ensure that the SDGs, the Agenda 2063 aspirations are fulfilled and implemented. That talking is not enough. We need to walk the talk. And also it has shown us that by just depending on others, we cannot develop. And therefore, self-reliance, which is one of the cornerstone of Agenda 2063, is being, zoomed at. We're looking at it, we are focusing on that, and making sure that Africa becomes self-reliant, be it in the manufacturing of vaccines, be it in the therapeutic, diagnostic, all these things. We need to develop our own capacities and capabilities, and we have to really put our resources there so that we have the catalytic resources, and then if others come, it's support, but they cannot they cannot really determine the priorities for Africa. And that's where we are going, and I think shocks are inevitable. We'll have other pandemics coming on. We would have also other, shocks, the environmental shocks, the climate shocks that would be coming. But we have to be ready. we have to build a resilient system and a resilient economy. And in order to do that, it's not by doing business the usual way, it's by doing business unusual. We have to have a mind shift. We need to know that we have to conquer crisis, and we cannot wallow in crisis. And I think, this development agency, if we want to make good use of the development agency, we have to put resources and we have to build the capacity. And our presence should be felt in the regions, and our presence should be felt at the national level. At the national level, because we would have the only authority, a unique authority to coordinate all activities that are there. There are many activities fragmented, uncoordinated, and there is so much wastage and leakage. And we need to seal this wastage and leakage, and we need to make sure we have a coordinated, concerted effort towards building the essential services, towards building, the fundamental things, that is health, education, food. There is no reason why Africa should be, should have famine.
And just before I let you go, Madam CEO, something that is very essential would have to be peace and security. You spoke about the issue of tackling inequality, marginalization, and many other challenges that are really the triggers of the conflicts. As NEPAD, what can you say to the member states in terms of making sure that they address these pressing concerns?
I guess, we have over the years learned that, marginalization, learned that inequality, learned that, creating hopeless society is by itself a means to conflict, a means to instability. And therefore, we have to have a conscious, intentional, determined, actions towards really eradicating inequality in our countries. Marginalization should be in the past, because in any case, our development challenges requires everybody to work together, So, I think, truly the ills of Africa is marginalization, inequality, not believing in ourselves, not having confidence in Africanism is the ill. And we need to have that confidence, because Africans elsewhere are building other countries, and therefore we need to know that we have geniuses, we have the scientists, we have the doctors. We have to create the conducive environment for these people to really express themselves and be part and parcel of this whole development process. We have only one continent, and we've seen our children, drowning in the oceans. We have to save, our children from being a threat to the society, from drowning and, squandering their intellectual capacity, really, truly. And I think, I say it because, I'm a mother and a grandmother. I say it from the bottom of my heart. And I think, our focus should be on that. And you're right. Creating hopeless society means instability. Okay? Inequality means instability. You can't have two worlds in a country. You have to have one country where, growth and prosperity is shared, at least meeting the basic needs. So I think, it's very fundamental and very important. And as a development agency, our focus would be really to eradicate these ills, the triple ills, which are, unemployment, inequality, and poverty. And they are all intertwined.
All right, Madam CEO, thank you so much indeed for your time. Obviously, talking about the priorities that she'll be paying attention to. So it's a myriad of issues really facing the continent. So undoubtedly, NEPAD does have a very fundamental role to play alongside other agencies and so many stakeholders in the continent. Kylie Khumalo, SABC News, Johannesburg.